Hey, happy Monday. I see a lot of people saying that already. I'm so glad to see you coming back. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast, and good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast like me. It's beautiful and sunny here, so I hope it's the same wherever you're at. I'm excited to get started. We're going to be rocking and rolling. I'm just tracking on some of the details so I can get moving. Hey, if you haven't done this already, we tried to send out a message to you through LinkedIn. I also put a post out there today, but there's 4 trainings after this one later this week that go with this week. So all this week, we're going to be talking about targeting. And if you haven't registered that you're going to attend for each one, do me a favor and do that. It's really helpful to us, obviously, right? It's great to see us have people letting us know that they're attending, but it's also really good for our community because the more of you that click that you're attending, the more LinkedIn thinks, well, other people who are similar to us might be interested in this training as well. And so LinkedIn will let them know that we exist, right? Both I exist and our broader community exists. So go ahead and do that for me. Let me turn off my captions here and let's go ahead and get rocking and rolling. For those of you who do not know me, I am Neil McDonald, and I'm so happy you're here. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. And I want to welcome you to my LinkedIn Live federal sales training. We do this every day at noon, East Coast time, where we discuss process and procedures for you to achieve success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner. And since 2018, I've been teaching people just like you that government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow the process A to Z, we're going to achieve the success and the outcome that we're looking for. And so I'm excited to try to bring you a little bit of the process every single day. Today, we're going to be talking about how to break into DoD or defense and civilian agencies, right? So DoD or FedCiv. We're going to be talking about that. And it's the start of a 5-day process discussion around targeting. Last week, we did training, a lot of different training on the 7-step process for federal success. One of the days was just about targeting. And I realized that I was trying to take a whole day's worth of training and shove it into 30 minutes. And I do that often, but this one was even a little tougher. And so we said, let's just go ahead and do 5 days of expanded training on that particular topic. So that's how this one came about. And I'm pretty excited about that. So today we're going to talk about that. And we're going to drive into actual ways that you can look at getting into the federal agency. Before we get started on that, though, do me a favor, help yourself, help me, and help buyers know who you are. In the chat, put your company name and your core competencies, 2 or 3 words. By the way, if you're feeling really good at it, put 1 word that's your core competency, because we've got another initiative we're trying to do that I can only afford space for 1 word on your core competency. But either way, put your company name and your core competency so buyers and I can know who you are. But most importantly, I think people in this community right along with you can learn who you are. Oh, you're down in San Antonio, or oh, you do elevators, or oh, you do IT work, or whatever it is. That's how we begin to find each other. It's no different than if we went to a conference and we began walking around and meeting people. What do you do? What do you do? Well, we're making that happen every single day right here with the community in the chat. So let's go ahead and make sure people know who you are. While I get rocking and rolling on today's topic of how to break into DoD and FedCiv agencies. Before we get too much further, I want you to just think about where are you in your journey, right? We all might want to break into a new agency. That's really the purpose of today's training is how to break into one new agency as an example. But maybe you're a small business with no revenue, right? You're not making any money at all. You just started your company and you're trying to get into your first agency. Or maybe you're a small business making some commercial money. And so you're doing pretty well in commercial. You've got started on your business, but you haven't started getting traction on federal. So you want to get traction on federal, and you listen to me and you pick your one agency and you start going in. Or maybe you're a small business who has success in another agency, right? I've got people I know right now I'm helping who are in the IC, but trying to break into DoD and civilian. And it's like, okay, well, that's a whole different world. And so they're learning how to get in there. They have experience in the federal side, just not with HHS, let's say, or Army. Maybe the 4th kind of person is more like you, that you're in an agency. Let's say you're in NIH or CDC and you got some traction, right? But you just haven't figured out how to actually get a lot of traction in there or get traction purposefully, right? A lot of times we get pulled in or we get kind of lucky, right? I don't mean it like we didn't work hard, but we kind of get lucky with the first opportunity that gets us into an agency, but we don't quite know how to actually expand deep and wide within that agency. And so maybe that's you. You got experience in CMS, but you're trying to go deeper into CMS. Or you're large. I mean, we definitely welcome larges in here. The GovCon Chamber is focused on small businesses, but the reality of what I'm teaching in sales training is from $1 billion firm down to a dollar firm. And so for large businesses, maybe you're looking to get into a new agency and you just know the path is so much easier when you subcontract, ride somebody's coattails, get your own experience and your own relationships, and then go off to the races by priming. Well, one of the best ways to get into an agency is by bringing your past performance to the smalls that are in there and teaming up. Or maybe your large business actually trying to get access to opportunities that are set aside specifically to smalls, like a woman-owned set-aside type opportunity that might really fit with your pipeline, but you're not going to be able to go after it because it's small. Well, maybe you're trying to get in, and how do I get into this agency through small business set-aside opportunities? So think about those, right? And think about where you're at. As I show you, I want to show you a couple of graphics just to make sure we're all on the same page. And for those of you who've been to my training before, they're going to look familiar. For those of you who haven't, they haven't. But I like bringing it back because even me, who is teaching this, I keep learning something new about how I want to communicate what I'm sharing. So there's two that I want to show. I want to show this guy. I think I did it right. Okay, so today we're talking about, and all this week, we're going to be talking about targeting. And the idea that I want you to pay attention to, and look over here on the right bottom, sales in our 7-step process comes from proposals, opportunities, and relationships, right? None of that is possible unless we actually begin to reach out to other companies, buyers, et cetera. And the only way we can do that is if we know who to reach out to. A name, a number, and an email is really how much detail into who I want to go. But that's what we're focused on. If we get the targeting, I believe then you can do more outreach because you're probably good at that and relationship building, writing proposals, et cetera. And so we're focused on helping you accelerate your targeting. And let me show one other graph that's important to today. So I describe how you can make money in the federal government on 3 paths. These paths are: you can sub under a small business, you can prime with an agency, and you can sub under a large. It's important to remember that if you have no money at all, like let's say, and to me, no money at all is $1 million or less, right? Especially down to zero. But I'm always encouraging to subcontract under a small business that's maybe 5 or 10 times bigger than you, and work your way through before you go to agency priming and before you go to larges and knock on doors. If you're a larger firm, you can do all 3 of these paths, right? But it's important to remember the paths as you go through on your journey. By the way, if this is making sense when I talk about there's 3 ways to make money in the federal government, 3 paths, then put 3 paths into the chat. Let me know what I'm saying is ringing true with you. Also, if you haven't seen that graphic before and you want that handout, let me know. Just put 3 paths, please, or 3 paths handout, please, and I'll send it to you. Okay, so I talked about what situation you might be in, right? What's the you have no revenue, or you're large trying to get into an agency and you want to ride the smallest coattail, whatever it is. Well, there's 3 reasons why you might want to be getting into an agency as well, right? Is you want more money, you want more access to an agency, or you want access to set-asides, right? So maybe like I talked about, there's a woman-owned set-aside or a hub-zone set-aside that you want to get part of. Whether you're large or small, you might have an opportunity that fits in your pipeline, but it's outside of your reach. The acquisition approach is done differently than how you have access to it. Maybe it's on a different contract vehicle than you have access to. More money is just growth, right? Maybe you're that smaller business that's just saying, look, I don't have any money or much money. I'm less about these fancy reasons for getting into an agency and more. I just want to get into a customer and start growing my company and the revenue, which allows me to grow. Making money is not a bad thing for any of us. We're all in business. That's the whole point of it, except for the GovCon Chamber, which doesn't make money. But even me, I have a separate business, right? BD in the box. I don't ask for forgiveness that I want it to make money. Its job is to make money. Otherwise, I don't need it. The GovCon Chamber, nonprofit, its job is altruistic. Same thing for you for the business. You shouldn't be afraid to say that you're looking to make money if that's what it is. If you're really, though, trying to penetrate an agency because of set asides and you want to go after opportunities that are there, that's one thing. Or if you're just trying to get access into an agency because of like CMS, you want to grow in Center for Medicaid Services or whatever that is, CMS. So let me know, what's your priority? If you were going to think about that, only one answer, right? In the chat, put only one thing, more money, set aside access, or agency access. Which would be the one thing that you put in there? And while you're doing that, I'll tell you why I want you to do that for me. Is because as we keep creating training, we want to make sure our training is driving straight to your needs. And so if I find out that more people are focused on set aside access, well, I might go do a whole 5-day around how to go after these different set asides when the acquisition strategy is going away from where you're at. Same thing with money or agency access. So put more money, set aside access, or agency access into the chat, and let me know what you're really motivated on, what your priority is for that. Okay, so the rest of the time I'm talking, I'm going to share my screen here, and so let me just bring it up really quick, and then I'll share it. But the what I want to share is how you can get into an agency. Let me just pull up my PowerPoint because I want to make sure that's all good to go. Find my sharing. Thank you very much for those of you put stuff in the chat, letting me know. That's awesome. I'm seeing a lot of I'm seeing a lot of different things, which is going to be great for us to see it. Don't worry, if there's a 30-30-30 split, we'll just do 3 weeks of different of all three of those. But I want to know that what we're training is hitting the mark of what you need. Okay, so let me share my screen. It's always fun when I share my screen. You get to see that little 50,000 windows going up at once. If anybody knows how I can share a screen and flip it over really quick without getting that, I'd love to see that. Okay, so I want to teach you in the next 15 minutes that there are many ways to get into an agency, right? This is really important to remember because sometimes we feel like we're trying to get into an agency. We're not having any luck. We're doing everything we can. And we give up or we get discouraged, right? I don't want you to get discouraged for two reasons. One is there's a lot of us out there who want you to succeed and are willing to help. The other reason is because I think there might be a lot of ways that you haven't thought about that this slide, I'm hoping to help you think about it and to begin to think about it. So this is my first time presenting this slide, right? I do all of this stuff, but everything I'm going to show you today is what I do intuitively. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to teach it to you. So definitely give me feedback. But one of the best ways to get into an agency is, and the first way, somebody asked me this morning, in fact, hey, of all these things, if you were going to say what the first way was, what would it be? And I said, you're going to see me come back and say there's a way before the first way. But the first person that I would be reaching out to when I'm going into a new agency is a small business specialist. I call them FRs, focus as a receptivity. There's many people who could fit that role, but the number one person at an agency that fits this role of focus of receptivity, they're willing to talk with you and help you learn about the agency and maybe navigate it. They're the best ones to be able to talk to get in an agency, whether you're small or large. Because if you're large, maybe you're going in saying, hey, I want to team up with a HubZone firm to go after this opportunity. It's only HubZone. Well, the agency or the small business specialist would love to put a small together with a large. So don't ever hesitate contacting any of these people, whether you're small or large. So focus or receptivity, first one. Focus is of dissatisfaction. You're going to see me post stuff later this week. Not the training, but the LinkedIn post that I do. You're going to see me do a lot about specifically agency focuses of dissatisfaction in one program office. I'm going to do 4 days of deep dive into one program office in one buying command in one agency in one department. That's how low I'm going to go to show you that there's a lot of people out there you can get. You just need guidance on how to find them. But focuses of dissatisfaction are the program office. They're the ones with the need. And so when you're thinking about buyer, they're the actual buyer, right? The contracting officer's just the one they're the actual focuses of power, right? That's who FPs are, focuses of power. They're the ones who can sign it. And so when you're looking to get into an agency, by the way, I'm going to share more than 20 ways on this slide alone. And I have way more than 20, but just starting with 20. These 3 types of people or roles is what we call them are great ways to get into an agency using an agency employee, right? We haven't even got to the outside people yet, but using an agency employee. And an example here is Small business specialist is the FR. Program office, you have like a program manager. It could be director of facilities or director of software development, something like that. Focus of dissatisfaction. Focus of power is always the contracting officer and the contract specialist. There's other people who are influencers. Just to close the loop really quick, you might think of a selection board. To me, those are actually more focuses of receptivity, because it's going to be the contracting officer who's signing it. That's power. But if you can get to the focuses of receptivity, the selection board who's talking about things and help you hear challenges, pains, and objectives, that's great. And then focuses of dissatisfaction, drive deep. I'm not going to repeat that as I talk to other ones, but keep those three roles in mind: FR, FD, and FP. Okay, so the next group are coming out of SBA. This first one is the SBA BOS, or Business Opportunity Specialist. Their job is to help small businesses, right? A lot of these people, their job is to help small businesses in one way or another. These people tend to be aligned a lot more with 8As because they have a responsibility to meet with and mentor 8A firms, but they also help all small businesses out there. So they're a great one to talk with. They have, and every one of these people I'm going to talk about, they have relationships into the agencies. That's why I'm saying they're a great path to get into an agency. So here we've got Small Business Administration's Business Opportunity Specialist. The next one is the district office. If you haven't met with the people at the district office, find out who it is. I'm going to use Dayton, Ohio, I think, for the rest of today's examples. But, in Dayton or in Ohio, there's a district office from the SBA that has multiple people from the SBA working there, working to make sure basically small businesses get a fair shake and that government is fully understanding the value small businesses bring to agency missions. And so they're and the BOS works in the district office. So there's other people with different roles. Get in there, introduce yourself, and make sure you're targeting an agency that you can ask them questions about, et cetera. And then the last one in the SBA, there's a person or a role called PCR, Procurement Center Representative. These people, in my quick summary of their job is to look at all opportunities that are coming out of an agency that are being determined large, to give them a stamp of approval. They have to sign whether that opportunity can go large based on the contracting officer's argument for going large, right? Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't, and the PCR pushes it down or has a little dialogue with that contracting officer. The reason they're great is because they have direct relationships, in particular with the focus of powers at agencies. These PCRs are talking to contracting officers constantly. So if you go in and look who they are, you will see that they when you look at their let's say job description, or they're on SBA.gov, so you can find them there. But when you look at them, you will see the agencies they support. And so you can find a PCR who's supporting Ohio or supporting, I forgot the Air Force Base up in Dayton, Ohio, which is poor because I deal with them all the time. But anyways, they have a responsibility directly in there. So they have a direct path into an agency. Quick note, as I try to manage the time and try to get through all of these, don't rush to a PCR and say, hey, get me access to the Air Force, right? I have all sorts of training that talk about relationship building and how you reach out to a PCR long before you need them. I know I'm going to the Air Force. I know I'm going to go talk to the focus of receptivity, the small business specialist, but I'm going to start talking to the SBA's PCR as well, so they know who I am. I know who they are. I might sit there and say, hey, what events do you speak at? What conferences are you speaking at? So I can follow you and maybe come, learn your advice through the talks that you do or something. It's a great way to start building a relationship. Build the relationship before you need it. Okay, so the next group are a big part of what I call the 7 mentors. Actually, these SBA ones are part of the 7 mentors as well. But the PTACs, right, are the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. These people, the Women Business Center, which is an SBA basically run program. The Veteran Business Opportunity Centers, again, an SBA run program out there. And then the Small Business Development Center. These 4 in particular are more government focused. There is SCORE that I put down here. And this group of people or organizations that are out there are designed to help small businesses get rocking and rolling. So when you think about the 3 in the middle, the business development centers, those are focused on particular groups of people. So Small Business Development Center, to me, are people just at your very, very beginning. Veteran and women business centers are there to help you at the beginning, but also along your journey, which might be unique as a woman-owned business or as a veteran-owned business. And so you want relationships with each one of these people because, again, every one of these organizations have counselors that have relationships, right? And so they might not always have relationships with the agency you're trying to get into, but they have relationships with their peers that are in, let's say, the state that your agency's in, if that makes sense. SCORE is a business mentor group, but the reason I put them here is because they also have people who have a lot of experience just in general, professionally, and especially in government contracting, where they could make introductions. And then PTACs, this is where they live and breathe. The first word of their name is procurement. Their goal is to help you with procurement, right? I don't want to get too down into it. I've done whole trainings separately on them, but you want to have a strategic relationship with a procurement technical assistance center counselor so that they know who you are and you know who they are. And you guys are talking on a regular basis. You've built a relationship just like with the PCRs so that when you need to, you'll get access. You remember I talked about Dayton, Ohio, and it's, sorry, it's killing me. I can't remember that. And I can't see the chat to see if somebody's putting it there because I'm sharing, but I'll get over that at some point. But the PTACs, they have very strong relationships, much stronger than the average business development center. There are places like Lee down in Catalyst Center in Huntsville, Alabama. If you don't know her, you don't know her organization, you definitely want to connect with her. She has got strong connections into the agencies. When you look procurement ready and a good fit, she'll make introductions the same as I will and others. And so make sure you have relationships with these people. But all of these people in these organizations have the ability to introduce you into agencies. Okay, so another way of looking at getting into agencies is through relationships with existing vendors that are in there. And so if I was going to go into an agency, let's say CMS, and I'm going to try to build a relationship with within that organization, that agency, so I can develop business, then I'm going to start with small businesses that have no certifications. I'm going to try to identify them. And later tomorrow, I think, or the next day, I'm doing training specifically on how do you find the right, not the right people, but how do you find people to call and find out if they are the right people. But you want to look at an agency. If you're trying to get agency access to be able to grow within an agency, you want to have strategic relationships with a small business that has no certifications, a small business that has the SDVO, the Service Disabled Veteran Owned, the Hub Zone, the Woman Owned Small Business Program, and the 8A. These are the 4 small business programs, and then the ones that have none of those certs. These 5, when you find relationships with people who are already doing business in your target agency, they will help you get in, through your relationship. As they get to know, like, and trust you, these are potential paths into that agency. What I really want to do with this diagram is have agency in the middle and actually have roads leading into the agency. So it's a lot clearer in the infograph that every one of these boxes is a road to the agency. That's what I'm trying to communicate as I share it. But if I was going into an agency, I would find people in each one of these small business programs, and then in general. And the same thing with larges, right? So if I'm going into if I'm going into an agency, I know that there's larges in there. So I might reach out to a large to build a relationship to get access to the agency. At this point, I want to give you a side box. If you're not making money, don't call larges. Just don't. It's a waste of your time, and it really is kind of a waste of their time. Go talk to the smalls. This column on the right, talk to the small businesses. If you're not really making more than, let's say, $1 million, go talk to them, build a relationship. Some of these smalls are doing $20, $30, $40 million a year. That's more than enough to help you get to 3 to 5 million, really build up your experience, and then go to larges. But an example of a large focus of receptivity is the small business liaison officers. Just one example. You can have many that are out there, but the small business liaison officer's job, in my words, is to help help identify small businesses that could serve the goals of the prime. So GDIT has a small business liaison officer, and they're looking at all of small businesses, seeing which ones could help serve those needs of GDIT's program offices that are trying to serve, let's say, the Navy or the Air Force customer. And so it's important that when you go in there, that they look and they see you as risk-free and procurement ready and can add to it. It's the same thing as with an agency. You have focuses of dissatisfaction and focuses of power. focuses of dissatisfaction in particular are program offices. Program offices are responsible for trying to fill a new contract, let's say. And so if a large gets a contract that has 100 FTEs on it, or it has this big body of work, they're looking for people to help fill it. Don't ever let anybody tell you that if a contract was awarded, there's no room on it. Of course, there's always room on it. There's just as much room and chance on that as there is in everything else. But one of the biggest challenges across the entire American industry and government is talent acquisition, finding the right people to hire. Government has that challenge. Industry has that challenge. Larges have that challenge. And so a focus of dissatisfaction, an example is a program manager of a large task order or even a contract vehicle. Later this week, I'm going to go fully into how do you actually find people. And I'm going to show you real names. I'm going to say, hey, here's John, here's Jane in there. So I don't want to just teach you conceptually. I'm going to drive into it. And then focuses of power. An example to me of a focus of power, two examples. One is leadership. Like let's say vice president of Air Force business development. That's a focus of power, because even if you're talking to somebody like a business developer, you still have their boss who has to approve to put you on a team and all that kind of stuff. But another focus of power, and one of my favorite ones, is a large prime program manager over contract vehicles. And so again, I'll talk about that one. I think I'm going to talk about it in a second. It's a whole separate box. But just as I'm looking at the time, and I want to go through the last three boxes here, there are many organizations. I picked one. Let's say the Air Force is my target agency. I picked one group. It's called Fast Rope out of Dayton, Ohio. And I think they're a lot of places, but I know of them in Dayton, Ohio, because I hear people talk about it. I have friends who are in that networking group, but I get new relationships where people are like, oh, I heard about you over in Dayton. But this is an example of one organization. And the Air Force has many geographic locations, and there's organizations almost in every one. Charleston's got places. San Diego's Navy, they got their own organizations. Norfolk, they got organizations. These, whatever you call them, foundations, associations, et cetera. Generally, they are industry coming together to try to go after government business, right? That's the general reason they exist. There are many of them. Are you in them? Are you even just paying attention to them? Again, remember, if you're not making any money, don't go spending a ton of money to get in there. Go find a friend who's in Fast Rope and just get to know them, right? It's that same thing with a boat. Don't buy a boat. Have friends who have a boat, and then buy them a six-pack of beer or something. So, but organizations are a great way to get into agencies, because often agencies are doing their industry briefs together with an organization jointly. So example is Navy Gold Coast is coming up, which I'm talking about on Friday. But that's coming up, and NDIA is this huge organization that is basically putting it on for the Navy. The Navy is actively involved in there, but it's NDIA's show. And the more of these organizations you find, the more you meet people who can drive you into an agency, help you with access. The last two are supplier portal. And actually, let me just put the last one because I'm running out of time. So I already talked about contract vehicle holders. Basically, find somebody who's on OASIS as an example, and go through that path. If OASIS is the big one for Air Force. But supplier partners is one I really want you to think about. When I had my last company, I used to build a ton of business by having a relationship with a company called AvePoint. AvePoint is a third-party provider to Microsoft. They didn't really do much in the government themselves, but they called in often. And so when I had a relationship with them, I would find out who they were talking to, who were interested in their product. These guys didn't sell services, but I did services. And so I was able to kind of piggyback off of their relationships into an IT shop. And this is done through supplier portals. Whether you do construction or services, you have supplier partners who are talking to your government buyers, to the agencies, who might be able to help you get access in there. Okay, so that was a huge fast fire hose. I hope it came across the way I intended it to come across. If it made sense, by the way, just let me know it made sense in the chat by giving me a thumbs up or telling me that it made sense. And if you'd like a copy at some point of that agency access, I'm happy to share the slide the way it is. Or if you want to wait till I make it look a lot prettier, I can do that. One last thing I want you to remember, though, is before you talk to any of these people, research is the key. When you research into an agency, all these people will know that you took the time to research, and it'll open up doors a lot easier for you. So a lot of stuff, talking really fast. If you found value, give it a thumbs up. remember that government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is coming to this training, and I really appreciate that you came to the training. I will see you tomorrow.